The lights in the View studio blazed to life, bathing the stage in the familiar golden glow of daytime TV. Rows of audience members leaned forward, phones in hand, ready to capture whatever drama might unfold. The morning's guest, Prince Harry, had been a headline fixture for weeks, thanks to his latest interviews, memoir excerpts, and high-profile appearances. The producers had teased this segment relentlessly, promising a conversation you don't want to miss. Megyn Kelly, brought in as a special guest interviewer, sat poised at the far end of the panel. She was no stranger to sharp exchanges and public showdowns, and her cool, controlled demeanor was the kind that often unnerved even the most media-savvy guests. Her pen tapped lightly against a notepad as she watched Harry make his way to the table, offering a practiced smile and a brief handshake before he took his seat. The segment began the way these things usually do, light banter, pleasantries, a few easy questions about Harry's charitable work and recent travels. Harry spoke in his measured, slightly rehearsed tone, tossing in small jokes that drew polite laughter from the crowd. The co-hosts nodded along, giving him space to lay out his narrative. But the shift was subtle, almost imperceptible. At first, Megyn waited until Harry was mid-sentence, explaining his stance on speaking his truth in the face of public scrutiny, before she interjected. Speaking your truth, she repeated slowly, leaning forward just slightly, isn't the same thing as speaking the truth. Would you agree? Harry blinked, momentarily caught off guard by the phrasing. Well, I think but she didn't let the silence stretch. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, in your last televised interview, you made statements about events that your own family, and records from the time dispute. In fact, I have some of those records here. She tapped her notepad, but her eyes never left his. A murmur rippled through the audience. Harry's shoulders stiffened. With respect, that's not accurate, he said carefully, his British accent smoothing the words like polished glass. Kelly's smile didn't waver. Oh, it's accurate. Let's take, for example, the claim about the Queen's private comments on your marriage. You stated in your book that she voiced her concerns directly to you, yet a leaked communication from her office states no such conversation took place, and yet here we are, with your version on the record. Which is it? The panel of regular hosts exchanged quick glances. One reached for her coffee, another adjusted her cue cards. No one interrupted. Harry shifted in his chair, glancing briefly toward the other hosts as if for a lifeline, but the silence hung thick. I've been very clear, he said finally, that my experiences are mine alone. I can't speak for anyone else's perception but you can present things as fact. Kelly cut in, her tone even sharper now, and when you do, people have the right to ask for evidence. The air seemed to tighten in the room. The audience wasn't just watching anymore, they were locked in, hanging on each pause, each carefully chosen word. Harry's posture changed. He straightened, clasping his hands together on the table, the practiced politeness slipping just enough for the camera to catch it. I'm not here to argue over technicalities, he said. I'm here to talk about the bigger picture, mental health, service, and the importance of *. Kelly leaned back slightly, giving the impression of someone who had just been offered a wide-open target. But the bigger picture is painted with the details, isn't it? If those details aren't reliable, how can the picture be trusted? Somewhere in the crowd, someone audibly whispered, "Wow." And it drew a few stifled laughs. Harry's jaw tightened. You seem to be implying I've been dishonest. I'm asking. Kelly corrected, her voice calm. Why the public should accept your narrative when key elements have been challenged by people directly involved. The camera cut briefly. To the audience, a woman in the second row had her eyebrows raised nearly to her hairline. Another clutched her phone as if debating whether to start live streaming. The tension was no longer a slow build. It was a steady boil. Harry exhaled slowly through his nose, the way one might before delivering a practiced rebuttal. Because, he said, I've lived these moments. I've carried the weight of them. And I've chosen to share them honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. Kelly tilted her head. Honestly, she repeated, drawing out the word. That's exactly what we're discussing. She glanced down at her notes again, and then back up. In your book, you describe an encounter with your brother, William, in which you claim he became physically aggressive. William's office denies it ever happened. Do you believe your brother is lying? A collective gasp swept through the room. The other hosts exchanged another silent look, a mixture of surprise and discomfort. Harry hesitated. I think my brother and I have different perspectives. Kelly pounced. Perspective is one thing, but physical contact either happened or it didn't. It was in that moment, the split second before Harry answered, that the audience seemed to realize they were watching something unusual. This wasn't the polished, diplomatic exchange daytime TV often delivered. This was a direct, pointed interrogation. Harry's response was measured, but it didn't land with the strength he seemed to intend. I stand by what I wrote, he said finally. Kelly's gaze lingered on him for a beat longer, before she sat back, a faint smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Then, I suppose the viewers will decide which version they believe. The show's moderator, sensing the escalating tension, quickly jumped in with a light-hearted question about Harry's favorite places to visit in California, but the energy in the room had already shifted. The audience knew the gloves were off, even if the words were still wrapped in politeness. And as the conversation limped along into safer topics, every person in that studio, and watching at home, knew that the real moment had already happened. The match had been struck. The fire was coming.